Imagine you are a child who has recently been removed from your home because your mother has repeatedly abused drugs, alcohol, and you. You feel scared and alone. You do not have anywhere to turn, or you feel like nobody really cares for you. Your current caseworker, you've had several, has told you things will get better. You are placed with a foster care family. You are having a hard time adjusting to all the rules in the new foster home. Rules were not something that your mother had ever enforced because she was rarely sober enough to do so. Your foster care family gets upset with your behavioral problems and sends you to a child guidance center saying that you cannot return until they're home until your behavior changes. So you sit in this center while various people from various agencies are contacted. No one steps forward to make a decision. No one wants to be held accountable. You sit there for 12 hours before a different caseworker shows you up to take you to a different foster care home. Sadly, this story is based on a real situation that has occurred since the attempt of the state of Nebraska to completely privatize the foster care system. You may not have a child or know a child who is in the foster care system. However, the safety and well-being of foster care children should be a concern for all Nebraskans. Privatization of the foster care system is not in the best interest of the children currently in foster care providers, or state foster care workers. I would like to inform you of 3 major problems with the foster care system that have occurred since the attempt of the state of Nebraska to privatize foster care. Children are being lost within the system. There is a lack of support for foster care families and a lack of competent caseworkers. I will now give you some information on each of the 3 major problems that the foster care system is currently facing. The first and most important problem is children are literally being lost within the system since privatization has occurred. The state of Nebraska requires notification within 3 days if a child in the foster care system has been placed out of home or moved from one home to another. As reported in an article that appeared in the Lincoln Journal-Star on Wednesday, November 10, 2010, since privatization has occurred, there have been several complaints of notification taking up to 4 weeks, leaving the families of these children without information about the location of their children. In the Statistics of Interest report for January to June of 2010, published by the Foster Care Review Board, it states that 35% of all children in the foster care system have had 4 or more different caseworkers, and 37% have been placed in 6 or more different homes. With the constant switching of caseworkers and homes, it is easy to see how children could be lost. If the state is unaware of exactly where foster children are located, there is no possible way that the state can guarantee the safety of these children. The second major problem with the foster care system is currently facing is a lack of support given to foster care providers. Since privatization, there have been numerous reports of foster care parents not receiving payment. Currently, foster care parents receive about $12 a day to care for a child. If a child is an infant, $12 a day is barely enough to cover diapers needed for that infant. Caring for a child at any age is costly. With the economy in its current condition, it is all the more important that foster care providers receive payments and receive their payments on time. Another complaint made by several foster care providers is that they do not know who to call for help and support. 47% of children in foster care system have either behavioral or mental issues. Foster care parents who care for foster children with these issues need support, which has not been readily available to them since privatization. The third major problem with the foster care system is that caseworkers are not being held accountable for the foster children they are assigned to. In more than 40% of foster care cases, the case information and case plans were incomplete. This was documented in a letter sent to the Governor of Nebraska on October 27, 2010 by the State Foster Care Review Board. Information ranging from the child, where the child was located, and current placement of the child to court-ordered visitation were missing. Many of these children did not have a case plan, which is a plan of how to get the child out of the foster care system and into permanent placement, which is the goal of Nebraska foster care. Many of the problems the caseworkers face are due to overload and high caseworker turnover. Current caseworkers are assigned too many cases to oversee. In an attempt to deal with the overload of cases, records have there's been errors in records, and records have not been completed. Being assigned too many cases may also ultimately lead to high turnover rates of caseworkers. It is difficult to hold caseworkers accountable for the children they service when they are so overloaded and are constantly being replaced. Now that we have discussed the three major problems with the privatization of foster care system, let's talk about the changes that could be made to help solve these problems. Recently, the state of Nebraska was given $9.8 million in a one-time federal emergency fund for foster care reform. According to an article written by Joanne Young that appeared in the Lincoln Journal-Star on Friday, October 15, 2010, Nebraska plans to give $6 million to private contractors and has not decided what to do with the other $3.8 million. After reviewing all the problems that have occurred since the attempt to privatize foster care, the money could be put to better use by creating a state agency that would deal solely with foster care. The creation of one agency would reduce the problem of children getting lost within the system. The agency could oversee every aspect of foster care, including placement of children. Whenever the status of a child was changed, it could be immediately entered into the system and placed in the child's case file. The agency could provide support for foster care providers. This agency would be in charge of payment of foster care providers for the services they provide, as well as any subcontractors who provide services. The agency could also provide much needed support for foster care families. All the employees of the agency would be employed by the state of Nebraska. The state could hire additional caseworkers to service foster care children. A program could be put into place that could hold caseworkers accountable for the children they were assigned. Now that we have discussed changes that could be made in the foster care system, let's discuss how these changes could improve the current system. If one agency was in charge of all aspects of foster care involved, everyone involved would know exactly where to go for information. The safety of children in foster care system would improve because all children would be accounted for. When the placement situation of a child changed, it would be immediately reported instead of taking up to 4 weeks. Case files of foster children would be complete because information would be reported to one agency instead of several. Foster care parents would receive better support and better information. Foster care providers would know exactly where to go for the services they need for proper care for foster children. Caseworkers could be more easily held accountable for the children they service. Additional caseworkers would mean fewer cases assigned to each worker, which could lead to less errors and better service. Less overloading of cases could lead to less turnover rates of caseworkers. Now that we have talked about an improvement that could be made due to change to the current system, let's wrap things up. Privatization is not in the best interest of children currently in foster care providers, or state foster care workers. As I have shown, there are several major problems with the current foster care system that have been caused by the attempt to privatize foster care. The creation of one agency to handle all aspects of foster care would provide better service to not only foster care children, but to all individuals who are involved in the foster care system. It is important that the system is in place to properly care for foster care children in Nebraska. There is no excuse for not knowing exactly where a child is or for letting a child sit in a guidance office for 12 hours.